recorded. Head of Tech has sorted it. Are you going to kick off with the intros, or am I doing that today? I can't remember what we decided.
Pretty confident that you told me I was doing that, so we'll get started. So welcome, day 2 of Awakening Your Goddess Mindset, and we are excited to have you here. Today we are talking all about the feminine superpower that is intuition, and that is completely Ellie's bag, so she is totally in charge today. But before we get started, just a wee reminder that you can access replays. There are replay links and emails that are being sent to you. If you need any other link, then reach out to Ellie or myself, or the lovely Julia, who is on our launch team, and her partner in crime, I guess, Sinais, who is also inside the Facebook group. And if you've got any questions about any of the content or anything that comes up, feel free to reach out. Don't forget also to fill out the homework inside the group. There are threads each day for the homework that comes up, and anybody who shows up live, watches the replays, engages in that process of doing the work throughout the week. There are some fun giveaways and things that we will be looking to give out towards the end of the week. So yeah, it's worth your time and energy just for the outcome that you'll get from it, but there's giveaways to sweeten the deal as well. And just for those of you who don't know me, I'm Erin. I'm one half of Awakening the Wise Woman. I'm a spiritual healer and psychic medium, and I cover the woo, while Ellie is obviously in her fabulous coaching space with all of her intuitive empowerment goodness. So I'll hand over to Ellie to cover the rest of the day, but it was very nice to see you all here, and thanks if you're watching the replay.
Thank you, Erin. A beautiful intro, as was expected, so thank you. As Erin mentioned, I'm the other half of Awakening the Wise Woman, and my background is corporate. It's major events, it's sport, it's marketing, it's comms, it's all of that sort of world. And it was probably about 5 or 6 years ago I decided that it was definitely time to do something different, and I've been on a path of coaching women ever since then. I'm very much about empowering women to stand up, speak their truth, be the authentic version of themselves in every possible place. And one of my big passions is how we kind of break down the systems that have kept us small and held us back in the past. So yep, you will hear me talk about societal conditioning quite a lot. You will hear me talking about the importance of women standing up and being strong. So yeah, if you ever have any questions about that or want to talk about it, feel free to hit me up, because I love a good conversation about it. But to dive into today's work, so we are talking about how to use your feminine superpower for good, and how to stop worrying about what other people think. And when I say feminine superpower, men can have it as well, but it's very much a feminine energy. So it really is something that women are incredibly lucky to find quite easy to tap into once they actually sort of identify it and learn that that's what they can do. So first up, what is intuition? That's always the question that we have to start with. It's basically that inner knowing. It's that sort of gut feeling you have in a situation where you just, for some reason, you just know the answer, or you know what you should do, or you know where you should go next. It's that feeling of just like, it sometimes almost feels like your imagination, but it's this knowing that you have, that you just can't put your finger on where it's come from, and you just know. And that sounds all a bit fluffy, and for someone who is quite coachy and human, it took me a really long time to get my head around it, and that's why I love talking about it now, because it's such an important skill that you can develop and grow. And that's another great thing, is that it is something that is all innately with us, but actually we are able to grow it and we're able to get better at it. So the reason it's important, and the reason we want to be making sure that we can connect in with our intuition, is because it stops us worrying about things that we have no control over, is one of the big things. So what I mean by this is, how often, and feel free to pop in the chat, do you feel like you're just feeling a bit overwhelmed, there's stuff going on around you, and actually you just don't know how to respond to it, you don't know how to show up in the world, it just feels heavy and it feels difficult? If that feels like something that you've gone through, that you have experienced, being able to tune into your intuition can really, really help with that. It can help us to stop trying to control the world. And as a currently being reformed control freak, that is something that is really helpful. So we think that when we control the world, that's putting us in a really, strong position of power, and that we are, doing our best. Quite often control is coming from a place of fear. We're trying to control things that actually we can't. And when we're able to tune into our intuition a little bit more, we're actually able to start to identify the bits that we can have some influence over and the bits that we have to just let go and not worry about. We can also start asking for everybody else's opinion. And again, if this sounds like you, let me know. You buy a new outfit, you want to get everybody's fit. Do you like it? Well, you bought it, so you must like it. But then you ask all your friends, your husband, your children, like you get a full range of everybody else's opinion. And by the end of it, you feel a bit more confused about whether you like it or not. So it's really being able to actually start to trust. Yeah, thanks, Julia. Type if any of this is resonating, please, put some comments in, or what comes up for you. What do you try and control? What do you ask for other people's opinions on? It also really, really helps us get to know ourselves better. When we can tune in to our intuition, when we can connect with our inner wisdom, we're actually able to ask ourselves the questions that we really, really want to know the answers about. And so often this is about who we are and what we're here to do. We talk a lot about having a purposeful life, being able to, live with purpose. And when you're able to tune into your intuition, that is something that can really, really help you with that. Oh, that's great to see. Thanks, Shauna, for sharing that. Sorry, I've got a little bit of a cough today, so if I'm a bit croaky, that's what it's all about. So apologies for that in advance. A lot of people struggle to connect with their intuition, and men and women alike, but a lot of that comes from the fact that actually there's been very limited value in being intuitive in recent times. So if we go back centuries, actually most of what the world was run on was intuition. It was intuition along with natural cycles, which we covered yesterday with Erin. It really was about being very connected to the world around us, being able to take signs and hints from what the moon was doing, what the weather was doing, what other people were doing. We were really, really connected. And then as we moved into the patriarchal system, it became a lot more valuable if you could prove something. So if you could have some sciencey facts to prove what was happening, that was seen to have more value than if you just kind of believed in it. If you just said, well, this is what it is, well, prove it. It really came down to sorry, it really came down to being able to actually just have some physical evidence. So we live in a very evidence-based society, and that's what everyone very much relies on. And we're starting to see a shift. We're starting to see this beautiful unfurling of people as they start to trust that they have answers. We start to know things that perhaps we wouldn't have necessarily believed we knew before, and we're willing to start to take a bit more of a leap of faith. So the other things that really make it hard to connect is if we've got that lack of trust in ourselves, if we don't believe that we have the answers, if we've spent our whole life being told we don't know the answers, asking for everybody else's opinion, showing up in a way that has then meant people have, told us to be quiet, sit down, your opinion isn't needed here, then that makes us not trust ourselves. And when we don't trust ourselves, being able to really tune into our intuition is very, very difficult. That lack of proof I talked about earlier, being able to trust your imagination, that's just, even just the thought of it is a bit bonkers. So being able to then have to try and believe in it and make sure that that is, what's going on is very challenging. And so if any of these feel like stuff that you've gone through, I really want you to know that you're not on your own, and it's completely normal. That is so much of why we have to have these conversations and do this work. And then the last reason that I really feel people struggle to connect with their intuition is they just haven't been taught how to do it. Because there's been so little value placed on it, because there's been so little belief in it, no one's actually really bothered to teach our children. We certainly weren't taught. There was no value placed on gut feel or instinct, when I was growing up. I think it's changing, and certainly, as a mum of two small people now, I take a lot more notice of when they just know stuff, when they just tune in and share things, whereas that certainly wasn't the case growing up. It was, it was much more, if you can't prove it, then sit down and pipe down. So I do believe that we're in a space at the moment in the world where intuition is actually starting to be valued. And as women, we are able to connect to it slightly easier because we're so much more clued in and connected to our feelings and emotions. And that, again, you know, in many ways the patriarchy has screwed us all over, but on the plus side, it's actually, you know, we've been allowed to feel our emotions. We've been, you know, classed as emotional for generations, so actually that gives us the upper hand. We're very used to feeling what we feel, and it's okay for a woman to cry. It's okay to be able to experience all of these emotions. So that's something that's really helpful for when we're actually trying to connect with our intuition, because you have to be able to really tune into what you're feeling. So I'm going to run through very few quick ways just about, you know, ways to connect with it. And if anyone has any questions as I'm going along, please pop them in the chat, and I will sort of try and answer them as we go along. And if not, I will answer them at the end. So feel free to put anything in. So one of the ways that I've found really helpful to be able to tune into intuition is actually just being able to start to notice how you respond to situations and how you respond to comments or thoughts or feelings. So anything that you can do to bring yourself into your body is helpful for a number of reasons. The first one is when we are in our body, when we are focusing on, you know, what do my fingers feel like? We're present. We are totally in the moment. So we're not off catastrophizing about the future. We're not, you know, feeling guilty or shame about the past. We are completely present. And when we're completely present, we're actually able to be much more aware of what's going on around us, which means we're able to listen to those messages. We're able to just pick up on those just little hints. And you know, your intuition isn't a lot of the time a massive great sign saying you need to do this. It's more of it's a little feathery touch. It's a little niggle. It's a little thought of, oh, perhaps I should do that. And we get so busy and we get so caught up in life that we don't take any notice of them. We don't listen or tune in to what might be coming up for us at any one time. So by being able to just really come into your body, that allows you to be able to really just sort of connect in and just take notice of what's going on. Erin and I certainly talk a lot about the feather brick truck, which is you know, a great way about how you can tell if your intuition is letting you know about something. The feather is the tickles. The feather is the, you know, perhaps you should do that. That little sort of slight feeling that you've got that perhaps you should try that. The brick is a slightly more obvious reminder that perhaps you should be doing something. And the truck is when you are absolutely struck down and there is no other option than to take the direction that your intuition has been just giving a few hints that you should be going in. And it's really important to remember that, because a lot of the time we kind of look back when we've been in either that brick or truck situation, we go, no, I just think I should perhaps do that. Yeah, I had a thought that I maybe should do that. And we're so unused to listening to that guidance that we don't take any notice until we've been, you know, wiped out, and then it's like, no, perhaps I should have done. So I really, really encourage you to just listen and take notice. What's really interesting as well with intuition is it shows up for people in different ways. So for me, it's very much a sense, it's a knowing, it's just I can't explain it any more than that. It's just sometimes I know stuff and sometimes I don't. For other people, it might be that they hear things, they might see things, they might sense things. And being aware of what it is for you can really, really help when you're trying to start to practice this. We all have the ability to get all of our messages in any way, but there will be some that are much stronger for others. Erin has all 5 of them. She uses all 5 of them regularly. She is like, I'm still very much in the sensing and the knowing, and I'm just starting to get a bit more visual, but we can develop these, we can grow them. Like I said, it's this wonderful skill that you can actually practice, and it's really fun to practice as well, because when you actually start to get it, it's kind of like, oh, did I just get that right? It's very, very cool. And you know, if you join our Facebook group, or if you're in the group, you'll know that we do Tuning in Tuesday, where we actually share these ideas on how to practice and how to get a bit more tuned into it all. Yeah, thank you, Erin. It's like a muscle. It just keeps, the more you practice it, the more you do it, the easier it becomes. So when we start to tune in and when we start to connect, we can start to just take notice. So I encourage you, one way to find out which is probably your strongest will be very much in the words you use. I often talk about things like, I really felt like this, or I feel like we should do this. Do you say, I hear that this is good, or I see that we should be doing this? So if you can listen into your language, you'll be able to pick up which is your strongest one, and that can really help you with your intuition as well. So you'll be able to know which one is going to be a good focus on for now. Journaling and free writing, another great way to connect in with that intuition. Now, free writing, when someone first mentioned it to me and told me to try it, I was like, what? That is just crazy. That can't possibly be true. And basically what it is you start writing, and I find it easiest by putting a question at the top, and you start writing. And the aim is to stop yourself thinking about what you're writing, which again, when I say it, might sound completely bonkers. The thing I'm going to tell you to do is try it, and then let me know. But you can actually get to this stage where you just write what is coming up for you and you're not thinking about it. And that is an awesome way to be able to get the messages that you need to be getting. You'll honestly, when you go back and read it, it's like, wow, that's not even, I didn't even know that I knew that. So that's an incredibly powerful way to be able to really tune into what you need to know at the moment. The third one on how to connect is feel your feelings. And again, anyone who knows me knows this is like one of my favorite things. Like, we have got to, I get really like determined about this. We've got to be able to feel how we feel. Society has told us that if you show emotions, you're weak, you're a woman, you're all of these, you know, things that aren't valued. It's bullshit. I'm calling total BS on that. When you feel your feelings, when you know your emotions, that gives you so much power and so much influence over how you show up in the world. You're actually able to use those feelings, that messaging inside of you for good. You're actually able to identify where you need to go. What do you need to be working on? What do you need to be doing? And being able to feel those feelings, it lets it flow through you. So much of today, we are, you know, stressed, we're anxious, we're overwhelmed. And most of that comes from the fact that we just don't allow ourselves to feel what we're feeling. We just don't let ourselves, we put feelings into good and bad pots. Is it a good feeling? Is it a bad one? If it's a good one, I want more of those. If it's a bad one, I don't want them. Feelings aren't a good or a bad thing. They are just what they are. We all have them. Every single person, male and female and everything in between, we all have feelings, and we have to learn to deal with them because it helps us with every part of our lives. So that's a really big one. In case you haven't noticed, I'm kind of passionate about that. The fourth one is practice, which again, everyone knows that is one of my catchphrases. We think we should be able to do things straight away, and certainly as someone who is a reformed fixed mindsetter, so where I used to I'd rather not try anything than be bad at something. Actually learning to be good at things, learning to become better at things is something that, and I think a lot of our generation actually do struggle with it a bit, because value was put so much on success, and success was so linear that actually if you couldn't hit certain targets, then you weren't deemed successful. So it was kind of like, well, why risk being bad at something then actually just, you know, I'll stay here in my safe little comfort zone. So when we do want to learn stuff, so when we want to connect in with our intuition, when we want to get better at that sort of stuff, then we absolutely have to practice it. So there are some great little techniques that you can use to do it, to strengthen it up. There's a wonderful one where you can basically, you look at a picture, like it's just a picture of anything. The rose is a lovely one, but actually it can be anything, and you just look at it and then you like flick it away and you close your eyes and you try and recreate that picture in your mind. And what that does, it really allows you to strengthen that ability to pull information, to be able to create what it is you need to see. And it might be really, really difficult the first time you do it. It might be really difficult, but then you do it again and you do it again and you do it again, and you get better and you get better and you get better at it. It's about strengthening and using that muscle. There's a lovely one that you can do with friends, and it's in our group, so if anyone wants to be tagged in it, let us know. Basically, there is you have a picture of some images, you know, whether it's a triangle, a circle, a line, a square, whatever it is, and you have that in front of you, and your partner or whoever you're practicing with chooses one, and you have to get the one that they've chosen. And honestly, when you first do it, really hard. It feels really uncomfortable and feels really embarrassing. It's like, oh, I didn't get it right. Oh, I got it wrong. I haven't got any intuition. No, it's just like, keep going, keep practicing, and you'll start to notice, do you see it? Do you sense it? Do you feel it? And the more you do it, the stronger it becomes and the more fun it becomes. So those are some really fun ways to do it. And I think with any sort of personal development work, we get really caught up in it being work, that it's hard and that it's difficult and that it's going to be painful and all of this sort of stuff. Intuition, connecting with that, is just really fun. It's really fun. It's really important, but it's really fun. And if you can really have that sort of approach towards it, if you can have that sort of attitude, that lightness, that joyfulness around it, that's going to make it much easier, because the higher our vibration at any one time, the easier it is to connect with higher forces and inner wisdom and all of those sorts of things. So if you are going in to do some practice, make sure you do it from a place of, I'm really interested in how I can get better at this. I love that you play a game like that with your, yeah, it's so cool. Like, kids are amazing at it. They're so much better at it than we are. It's like, and that's again why it's so important. If we can start to get our kids learning about that now, God, how much easier is it going to be for them in the future to be able to do all of those things. So intuition is really, really important. And just to recap, it's that inner knowing. It's that sense of just having answers and you don't necessarily know where they are. It is meant to feel like your imagination. It is meant to feel like, is this a bit made up? Like, that's okay. It's completely okay if it feels like that. And the more you can build up an evidence base of where you've followed it. So I encourage you to do some journaling. Write down some times where you've just followed that gut feel. The one that I always share about when I've followed my intuition is how I've ended up in New Zealand rather than London or Northampton, which is where I grew up originally. And it was very much this little niggle that I had for many, many years of, I don't think I'm meant to be here. I think I'm meant to be somewhere else. And I completely ignored it for a good 10 years, completely and utterly. And it wasn't until it kind of just became so loud, I just had to follow it. And this is without a doubt where I'm meant to be in the world. And if I hadn't have, followed that niggle, then, I wouldn't have my lovely husband now. I wouldn't have my 2 children and my crazy dogs. And thank you, Erin. I'm very glad I followed it as well. It's it really is when we listen to it. So listen to some, tune into when you've followed it, and sometimes when you haven't, when you've known you shouldn't do something, but you did it anyway. How did that turn out? Because I bet we've all got examples of that. I've got a list as long as my arm. So if anyone ever wants to catch up on that, happy to share. So the feminine superpower is all about the intuition. And the reason we need to be able to tune in is it helps us on so many different levels. But I really want to talk about today is, how does it help us stop worrying about what other people think? So hands up if anybody gets, worried about what other people think. If anyone else actually, kind of can find it a little bit sort of crippling and a little bit like really hold you back, like, oh golly, what will they think? Yeah, I can do a big hands up. I was 100% when I fell pregnant before I got married to Matt, and there was 100% part of me that was like, I need to be married before this baby is born, because otherwise my grandparents would be really displeased with me. All of my grandparents were dead, but I still had this deep, I just had to do it because of what I thought other people think. Nobody cares, but I thought that they would care. So when we learn to trust ourselves, when we learn to know that we've got the answers, we can stop worrying about what other people think. It's not such a big deal. We're able to actually just, take on other people's thoughts and then let them go. It's a much more gentle process. It's not so debilitating that, without, having surveyed 101 people and nobody's giving you the answer that you actually want, then you've got to try and work out which of the answers is closest. And it's really difficult. It's really hard to let go of what other people think. And you do have to practice it, and you have to kind of create the reasoning why you can let go of it. When we know our truth, when we're able to know what is true for us, what is right for how we're going to show up in the world, we're actually able to not worry about what other people, we can actually just do what we know is right. And that is an incredibly empowering space to be. Imagine being able to, have a decision to be made in front of you. And rather than worrying about what your mother might say, what your partner might say, what your friends might say, what your children might say, you can just tune in. You know what it is. And I firmly believe that everybody has the answer within them already. I firmly believe that it's there. and it's just getting the trust. It's just learning how to, sort of pull the thought out, because we have got so many layers of societal conditioning that have just been stacked, so that actually trying to find the answer can feel really heavy and really difficult. And that's why I link these two together. That's why I think it's really important that we do talk about the intuition, and then talk about the, not caring about what other people think. Because if you don't have that will to tune in and find your truth, you're going to really struggle to let go of the importance, like the value that you place on other people's opinions. And why do we worry about what other people think? Well, because we've been told to. We have literally been told to for centuries and centuries. And this isn't just it's not just a female thing, it's a world thing, that, and this is what makes me chuckle about patriarchy. It actually doesn't serve men most of the time. It's all about hierarchy. It's all about, the man at the top, and everybody else needs to fall in line. We have literally been conditioned to put everybody else's thoughts, ideas, beliefs ahead of our own. And when you actually break it down like that, it's completely bonkers. It's completely bonkers that's what we do. How can anybody else know what is right for us? It's not possible. And I don't know if you've experienced that when you have been, doing the survey of 100, or, asking all of your friends what you should do about a certain situation, whether it's, a boy you should date, or whether it's a job you should take, whatever it is. And you sit there and you're all together, and it's all like, right, well, what do we think of it? Should I do that? And you've got 5 or 6 different opinions coming at you, and you're like, none of these feel right. They can't feel right because they haven't lived the life that you have. Every single moment of every single day, we are looking through the lenses, the filters of our belief systems that we've grown up with. The people who are probably closest to have them are probably siblings, but even they are not going to be they still haven't walked the same path as you, so they're not going to have it. There'll be a few more connections. But remembering that when you're asking other people's opinions is really important. They are passing their thoughts and their ideas and their judgments based on what they believe would be right for them, not what they believe would be right for you. And it's so important to realize that, because we put so much value on what they're sharing with us that we forget that they actually don't know what the right answer is. So being able to start to be very discerning with information that you receive from others about situations is vital to being able to move forward and trust your own intuition, and trust that you have the answers, trust that sense of knowing. You have got that. You have got it so far part of who you are. It's just it will ooze out of you once you release it. And it's a beautiful space to be in. But we have been told for so long, we've been told, children are told to behave and do what their parents say. Even now, I find it really fascinating how what I call the proper grown-ups, if they say something, I'm like, oh, should I be doing that? There's this hierarchy of the older you are, the more wisdom you have, and therefore we should always be listening to the people who are older than us. And that's changing slowly, but it's still there. It's still very much there. So the other things to remember when, we're unpicking this importance that we put on what other people think of us, is that what other people say to us, as I was just kind of saying in a roundabout way with their lenses and their beliefs, is a reflection of who they are. It's actually most of the time got nothing to do with you, particularly if people are coming at you with negative comments or thoughts that actually make you feel a little bit uncomfortable. It is all about them, not you. And that's really, really important to remember, because again, we take on everybody else's their emotions, their judgments about the situation, whereas we have to remember that's not to do with us. Only you can define your journey. Only you can define your purpose. And the sooner you release other people from having any influence on that, the straighter, the more beautiful that journey is going to be, because you actually get to find it and you get to feel it for yourself, rather than being pushed and pulled and going off in a direction that you think, I'm not sure I want to be down this road. But you look back and it's, you had a choice a few streets back to take a different turning, but so conditioned and so used to putting everybody else's thoughts ahead of our own that we just went on down. And at some stage there will always be a moment where you go, is this actually what I want? is this what I really, really want? And if it isn't, that is your opportunity to really start to look at some of the choices, look at some of the decisions, and how many of them were actually yours versus how many of them were what you thought you should be doing, or what your friends or family or people around you suggested you should be doing. You don't need anybody else's approval. What you are, who you are, is beautiful and wonderful, and it's exactly what the world needs. And the sooner we're able to step into that, remembering that we have the answers, that we know what is right, the sooner everybody is going to be happier. I absolutely promise you that. With all of the stuff that's going on around the world at the moment, it's so divided. There is so much need from people to convince other people like that my idea is right, and if you don't believe what I believe, then you are wrong. Like, it's just crazy. Like, why can't we have two completely opposing views and just agree that they're different? They don't have to be good or bad, they can just be different. And the sooner we can show more love and more compassion to people around that. And remember, when people are being unkind, when people are saying things that are cruel, it's coming from a place of woundedness. It's coming from a place of hurt. And if we can start to remember that, if we can be the bigger person, as I always remember my mother telling me I needed to be when I was a child, but when we are able to be the bigger person, and when we're able to see that, when we're able to witness people's hurt, we can remember that actually we only have responsibility for us and how we show up in the world. And we need to make sure we do the work to make sure that we're not putting our woundedness on other people. But actually, we can also just send love and compassion to them and they, thank you. That's where you are and I'm over here. And it's making a conscious decision about that. And again, it's practicing. I told you I'd come back to practice. We have to practice giving things back to people. We have to practice not taking on other people's stuff. And that's really hard because it's good girls make sure that everybody else is happy. Good girls do what they're told. All of these things need to be, we need to break them down, because actually we don't want our daughters believing that. We don't want our sons thinking our daughters do that. We really have got to make a stand and make some changes here. So how do you stop worrying what people think? I'm coming into sort of the last little bit here, and then if anyone's got any questions, I'd love to answer them. How do you stop worrying about what other people think? Because I'm guessing that it is something that a lot of people do, because I know for me, and even now there are things that trigger me that I will sort of go into a spiral about when somebody says something, because I still have to practice, and the universe is very kind at giving you lots of examples and situations in life where you have to practice lots anyway. Hand the comment back. If somebody says something to you that doesn't feel true or right or make you feel good in any way, shape or form, hand it back. And you can actually do that in a sentence and be like, I appreciate your thoughts. They're not mine. I'm letting you have them back. And that can feel like quite confronting, the thought of actually doing that. But it is so powerful when you're able to, because you're actually putting up a boundary. You're saying, that's not okay. I don't want to hear that. I appreciate that's your view. I appreciate that's what you think. But actually, that's not okay with me. And if more of us were able to do that in a kind, compassionate, we're not shouting about it, we're not getting cross about it, we're simply saying, thank you, but no, that's not mine. Hand it back, just let it. Yeah, that's yours. And fine, if that's what you believe, totally fine. And I think one of my biggest growth areas, and I wouldn't say that I'm always able to do it, is that actually being able to have an opinion and have a belief and not have to convince everybody around me to believe it has been such a change. And I think being able to let that go, being able to hand it back. The next one on how to stop worrying about what people think: choose how you respond. Like, you get to choose. And we forget this. We so often, oh, you made me feel like this, or that made me feel. None of it made you feel anything. You chose to feel like that. And that, again, was a big learning for me. And it's something that I do a lot with my girls, is that we don't talk about you made me feel, it's I feel. We have to take responsibility for how we feel, because we actually get to choose. We get to be present and we get to decide our reaction. And when you do that, you are claiming your power back. You are claiming the fact that you actually get to choose about it. That's the only thing I control. I can't control how anybody else shows up in the world. And the more I try and do it, the more I'm going to be disappointed that I don't have that all-powerful control, to be perfectly honest. It's not our responsibility to control everybody else. It's not our responsibility to change people. All we can do is show up in a way that is true and right for us, and then that allows us to, show people that there's a different way. I always use my lighting the candle thing. I've lit my candle, and then hopefully I can light somebody else's to show up in the way that makes them, feel authentic and be able to stand in their truth, and then somebody will see them do that and they will light the next candle, and so on. It's that ripple effect of, if we can start to stand in our our own beauty and stand in our own truth, other people can see that that's okay. We all have those people that you can just look at and be like, wow, how do they just show up like that? It's just incredible. We can all do that. We just have to remember that we have the knowing inside of us on how to do it. Talked a little bit about it before, but tuning into your body and really connecting with your intuition. Like, what does the comment or what does the opinion or judgment of the other person actually make you feel? Because there is so much information within that space. Like, there is so much knowledge that you can gain, but it's coming at it from a place of compassion, from a place of curiosity, from a place of kindness. So we don't want to be judgmental of ourselves. We don't want, somebody says, well, that outfit makes you look terribly, a little bit bigger than the other one. The instant message is, oh, well, I'm fat. I did eat chocolate last night and I did this. And, we can go into this whole, world of it. Whereas actually take the comment, it's like, well, actually, how does that make me feel? It does make me feel a little bit uncomfortable about, my weight and how I'm looking at the moment. So is that something that I need to be focusing on? Or maybe I could, maybe I could eat a few more vegetables, or maybe I should be doing a bit more walking. We can use the information to guide us, or we can let it go and say, thank you, it's your opinion, I don't need to appreciate that. My mother was always really great at sort of those slightly backhanded comments. The one that always stands with me and just makes me chuckle even now, so I have to share it, is I'd found these two identical dresses. One was in fuchsia pink and one was in purple. And so I sent a picture of me in both of them from the changing room. I remember it so well. I was in the LK Bennett store in St Pancras train station, just waiting to get a train home. And I tried them both on because it was great to do some shopping. Tried both dresses on. I sent them to Mum, and she just came back with, "Oh, darling, purple's terribly aging." I just thought, wow, that is your opinion. And it's always made me chuckle. So I still don't wear a lot of purple, I have to say. But we have to just choose to let these things go. People have their thoughts and their opinions. Journaling on a situation is another great way. Like I said, it's the free writing, or just asking yourself questions about it. Keep asking why. Keep asking why you feel like that. Why does it bother you? Why are they doing it? Have some compassion and understanding. Being able to almost validate why they're being the way they are can be really make it so much easier to release it. People are behaving like, somebody might have said something unkind. Well, actually, they're going through a really tough time. They've actually just lost, their partner. Their jobs are changing. Life is difficult. You can kind of, deal with it a bit better than actually just taking it as, well, that was just an assholey thing to say. So being able to journal and just like sort of, it's kind of taking that knotted ball of wool and just pulling it apart gently to be able to find what's in the middle of it and what do you need to learn from it. And one of my favorite ways of stop worrying about what other people think, and it's so funny because it's, it is talking to other people. It's finding those trusted friends, it's finding a mentor, it's finding a coach. All of those things it's really important. It has to be somebody that you trust. It has to be somebody that isn't going to get all judgy. And we all know the people that we can have those conversations with, and we all know the people we don't have those conversations with. And choosing that and having a space. I process audibly, as Erin knows. I don't necessarily need anyone to tell me the answer. I just need a space to be able to talk about it, and I will get to the answer, relatively quickly. I like to think, but it must be also very boring and long-winded for her to listen to. But finding a space for you to be able to do that is really helpful. So if somebody has said something, if somebody has shared an opinion that has made you feel a little bit uncomfortable and made you feel, not very nice, actually just explore it with a friend or a coach or a mentor, and be able to just unpick it and describe it and sort of all of those lovely things, and that can really help. So in summary, it's really important that we start to trust our intuition more. It's really important that we learn to connect to it, that we stay present, that we can tune into those little nudges, that little bit of information. It can help us guide, it can help guide us where we need to be going. And if you're at a place at the moment and there are two pathways, just have a look at them and see which one takes you closer to who you really want to be. Because there will definitely be one, and just listen to how your body responds, because your body will give you the information if you allow it to. You just have to give yourself space and time to do that. And it's not something to rush. It's not something to do whilst you're on the fly and busy. Take some time to just, breathe, meditate. Guided meditations can be incredibly helpful for really sort of tuning into that stuff. But even just going for a walk and knowing that you're just going to have some time for you can be really helpful. When you're thinking of stuff, when ideas pop up, and sometimes you'll get an idea that might just be so left field, it's just like, whoa, where did that come from? We're able to ask for some guidance, ask for some clarification, ask for, to get a sign that what you're thinking is true. And then just notice what comes up for you. It might be that you start to see a load of numbers. It might be that you start to hear a word over and over and over again. It might be that you read an article that's completely relevant to you. Like, when we start to think about what it is that we want, when we start to tune into it, we will get the signs. We just have to notice them. Anyway, that is pretty much what I wanted to cover today. I wanted to keep it relatively concise, although I have shared a lot of information. But the good news is that there are some lovely replay slides thingies, recap slides, not replay slides, recap slides, which will just sort of pull out the key points of what I've talked about today. But I hope it's been helpful. I have seen there's been lots of chat going on in there, and I will just run through and see if there's any questions that I particularly... Erin, do you want to hop on and just say a few words, or shall I just go through and see if there's anything to answer?
Sure. I don't know if I have a lot of words. I think the only thing that that came up for me in that space was when you were talking about feeling your feelings, and I popped into the chat. I think learning what your yes and your no feel like in your body is a really, really great place to start in terms of connecting with intuition. So really understanding, because like I've yet to come across anyone who, once they've identified their yes or no, feels like they can't identify it again, right? Even if it shifts or changes slightly, it's something that they understand that is what their yes feels like. And when you know that, when you understand what yes feels like in your body and what no feels like in your body, then you can always lean into that and test whether something feels true for you. So if someone offers an opinion, you can, if you know what your yes feels like, you can just ask, is that true for me? And if it's not yes, then just give it back, right? And you don't have to do that out loud. That's the other thing that came up when you were like, yeah, when we say, like, interesting point of view.
It is important, though, with the boundaries, sometimes to actually physically or verbally give it back, because that starts to show that you're willing to create these spaces that actually that's not okay. But I agree, there are some times where actually it is just really important. Just say it in your mind, mind.
I mean, be discerning, right? Be discerning about who you set those boundaries with in a really obvious way, and who you just honor your energetic boundary with. So I might not, unless I'm feeling particularly feisty, I might not say that to my father-in-law, but I'd probably say it to you. And actually that's because I know that you will honor it, and I know that he would walk all over it. So it's about being discerning and being really understanding of the mutual boundaries that you're looking to set, because it's not just you setting a boundary, you're then giving them permission to set a boundary too. And so really knowing who you can do that with safely. And as you get more connected and more firm in your truth, it will be easier for you to do that. But for the starting point, you can just walk away, and as you're walking away, just say, that was an interesting point of view, you can have it back, it's not mine.
Yeah, I think for me that reminder that you don't need anybody else's approval is huge. It's just like, write that down somewhere, write it on a post-it note, write it on the top of your pad. Just, you don't need anybody else's approval to show up however you want. It is you and you only. You're the only person you have to answer to, and you know, you'll have a full understanding of what is okay for you. And the more you tune in with, you know, how you feel about stuff, the more you'll be able to trust it. The more those layers of conditioning, those you know, huge barriers that we've grown up with to actually speaking our truth, they will start to come down, and you will feel more comfortable and more confident in having that unshakable truth that actually, no, this is what's right for me. And you'll be happy to stand for it as well. And I think that's something that's really important. So thank you for joining us today. There is some homework. I can't remember what it is off the top of my head because I didn't write it down in front of me. So there you go. But I'm sure that Erin has got that in front of her, and we'll be happy to share. And if not, we'll tag you all in the post. Did you remember, Erin, or was
sorry, I was trying to find the unmute button.
Oh, had it moved?
Well, I wasn't on that screen, smarty pants. So what the homework for today is just looking at like what is holding you back from taking action towards your intention. So when we talked yesterday about setting an intention, today we're just going to look at like what's holding you back from that, and where does that come from? Right? So if it's someone else's opinion, if it's something that you're carrying about, you know, oh, that wouldn't be what people expect of me, or that wouldn't be appropriate, or, you know, why is it holding you back, and who does it come from? Is it yours or is it someone else's? Basically, is the question. So there will be a homework post inside the Facebook group. So when you've come to whatever realization you have around that, share it in the thread. If you haven't shared your intention from yesterday, please make sure you share that in the thread inside the Facebook group as well, because we're following along and we're going to hold you accountable for the work that you're committing to doing. So
Yeah,
there you go.
Okay, thank you. My glamorous assistant over there was able to remember it all and described it beautifully as well. So very grateful, as always, having you as part of my life. Yeah, the video that you should have the replay for it, or it's in the group as well. So there's lots of places to watch yesterday's one. Erin did a beautiful job of talking natural cycles. So it was a wonderful session, and there is lots to take away from it. But we will be back tomorrow. I am talking all about self-acceptance. Ooh, that lovely thing, which follows on nicely from what we've been doing today. So hopefully you will be able to join us again live. If you are catching the replay, let us know that you're watching the replay, so that we can we can stay in touch and find out what's going on. And as Erin said, hold you accountable to the things that you want to make change, because when we declare it, when we talk about it, when we put it out into the world, we're much more likely to follow through with it than if we just think, well, maybe I'll do that. But hopefully today has been fun, and I've loved being here and seeing your fabulous faces, and looking forward to hearing any feedback or any questions that come up as you sort of dive into this work a little bit more. Please feel free to reach out to Erin and I, and if you would like to have a quick call, we've got lots of space this week as well to be able to jump on a quick call, so feel free to reach out for that. We'll put the link in the group again, and I think it's probably bound to be on an email somewhere as well. So we'll make sure that if you want to have a call, let us know, and we'll see you again tomorrow. Exciting.